You see, the thing about creating, actively creating a better world is you have to be active. You have to do the thing, or else it won't become a thing. And sometimes you might do it for a long time and you will never live long enough to see the fruits of your labor. But you at least have to start. And if you're not willing to take that step in order to make circumstances or make the environment around you worth living, then you're just accepting that you don't want to be responsible for creating the world that you want to live in. You're accepting that you believe that it's always somebody else's responsibility, somebody else's duty, somebody else's calling, somebody else, and the buck keeps passing. But realistically, not just realistically, just the truth of the matter is that we each, all of us, help create the world that we live in, and no one person, no group of people can dominate, change, erase, or do anything without the collective co-signing or capitulating to their desires. And the thing about resistance is that there is no expiration date. There is no perfect time. There is no perfect solution. There is multiple ways that one can resist. It's not enough just to exist anymore. It's not enough to just hope. It's not enough to just talk and to educate. All of those things will happen, will continue to happen, but they can't really take root if people don't resist oppression. Like sometimes, or maybe all the time, all it takes is just one person to say no. Like, where would the revolutionaries of the world, or the circumstances, or just where we are would be if everyone just said, well, I mean, it just said, well, I just turn their back and just continue working or continue toiling under oppression. It was with that one no, that everybody that was like, they made an example with that. But if there was never that one person who rise up and then paid the ultimate price, and they said no, there wouldn't be other people who also said no. And with that no, they didn't just say no. They They said, no, I'm not going to participate in the system. Before it was like fiefdom, before it was slavery, before it was just like all these forms of oppression. Somebody not only said no, but they actually just stand on business and they said, okay, I'm not toiling the fields anymore. I'm not picking cotton. I'm not fighting for this cause. I'm not. And it had to have started with somebody just saying no. And I had and with that no came real power and real change, because other people who was probably thinking, oh, maybe one day I'll say no. Maybe one day I will stop, or I will resist. They find when that one person said no, they decided to say no. And they were like, okay, then whatever happens, happens, but I'm not doing, when I say no, I'm not doing, I'm gonna stand on business. And I think that regardless of what people try to get you to believe, get you to relinquish, what people try to use against you, or don't call things for what they are, and they just try to use misinformation, and they try to hide the truth, and they try to change history, it will just still be, it will still result in the same, because when the oppressed gets tired, it will always be that no, that will be enough. It won't be people, although all these things that I'm listing off, like protesting and you know, calling calling attention, or being educated and learn about all those other things, help form these individuals that say no. But the singular most important thing is that they resisted. That the act of resistance is not not continue being a participant, being a willing participant in your own oppression. That if you say, oh, I am being oppressed, I know that you're being oppressed, or I told you, this is what you say, oh, I'm your boss. Excuse me. You say, oh, this is how the governments of the system works. And you say, oh, the people, power to the people, and I'm your boss. And I told you, and we all told you collectively what we want and what we need. And yet your government keeps expecting you to go to work, to put money into the economy, to just be like good little worker bees, and just continue, even though, like, you know, then they're just treating you like, you know, like they're herding sheep or whatever. That they don't expect you to use the power that you have, which is just one unified voice. No. 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 I'm not going to work. No. I'm not gonna spend my money in the economy. No. I won't do anything you expect me to do at all. Because if I believe, and you should, that you are the government serves at the behest of the people, then you shouldn't be afraid at any point in time say, well, okay, let's shut this bitch down. They say, okay. They say, well, oh, you can't do this and you can't do, and I'm always for non-violent, extreme, whatever. And I know that, you don't get people's attention, and I know that's flashy to blow things up and set things on fire and, clash with the police, and that gets people attention. But you know what also got people attention? During COVID, everybody was locked down. That got people attention too, didn't it? When you saw those empty streets and you saw those animals and you saw and all kind of ecosystems on the rebound, and nobody couldn't go anywhere, and people were indoors but still trying to communicate, trying to knit and do all those things. Was that not a sight? Will people not continue to remember the fact that, oh yeah, we all were indoors? And then just because the obvious things may seem like the most constructive things to do, maybe, just hear me out now, that the most constructive thing to do is to do what they won't expect you to do, which is to be like, okay, stay your ass home. Okay, I don't know why I'm on this stay your ass home, because I don't know. And this is probably like the last time, not the last time, but I don't need a break, because I'm fully aware, I'm fully engaged in this world that I live in, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to be, I'm not going to continue to be, but I'm like hyper fucking aware, and I just need to have some balance. I need to just step off and do something besides just looking at the doomsday clock. So I'm probably going to talk about, lighter things, but just know, viva la resistance, so I was going to be there, and that my preferred method that I want to see people now out in them streets, I want people, honestly, to do that shock campaign. And what would shock people? What would shock the government? Wouldn't be because they are expecting you to riot. They're expecting you to clash with the police. And that's why they're having their speeches. They're having their moment. They're working on their sincere gestures. They expect it. That's why I say disrupt the system. Disrupt. Just be like, okay. They're going to be like a ghost town. They'll be like, oh, where's everybody? And then when people, because I was thinking, why I think this is so effective. And not every government going to work there, but I think by and large, the shareholders, the puppeteers are working behind for those government. I think the majority of the governments answer mainly to shareholders and their own private interests. I was thinking about what happened with I think of like the government as a Jimmy Kimmel situation. Jimmy Kimmel, people were like, oh, boycott Disney, boycott, all those other things. And then Disney probably was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. They probably knew that they were gonna suffer some losses or whatever. But baby, when they lost all that valuation on the stock, I think that's what happened. And the stockholders, they pocket hurt, their interest hurt. Look how quickly a deal was brought to the table, and look how quickly Jimmy Kimmel came back. The shareholders. And I'm just saying that all these governments are just representatives for the actual shareholders of your government. And even if you decide, oh, I don't want to stay at home, I want to make this as flashy as possible, you have to figure out who are the shareholders of my government. Yes, you have to go there. You have to do the hard work, and you have to say, okay, I find out who the shareholders are, and we're gonna uh boycott any I don't know excuse me, but I'm sure that people trying to do clever things or whatever, but you have to find where the money, the gravy train, as you will, where it snakes off to and where you're trying to disappear or whatever. You have to find and I almost guarantee you that all these businesses upon businesses upon businesses have all these figureheads, have their little pockets, nestle one of these politicians, and it repeats the same formula all over the world. Because what politicians want, um, power. What do they need in order to get power? Money. And who has the money and the power and the influence in order to move things behind um behind the curtain? You watch the right hand, but you don't know what the left hand is doing. The shareholders. And the shareholders don't necessarily even have to be like regular schmegular schmoes. These companies can be a part of other mega corporation. And I think that's what they're doing. They themselves are like, go over, buy a bunch of stock, buy a bunch of things. They have control and interest, and they keep doing it over and over in other big conglomerate countries, and they sit at this council. It's not deep state. I just think that this is just kind of common sense, because they want to control the markets as much as possible. So I bet that your Vanguard, your BlackRock, whatever, those evil corp, I bet Apple, Google, Microsoft, any probably conglomerate company is on there is probably listed as a private investor or a private shareholder or whatever. Bet that the BlackRock and Vanguard have other entities and investments or banking firms or whatever you call me, where they have in your neck of the woods, your country's versions of Microsoft or whatever. And guess what? They probably have the same set up too as well. And they probably under some vague ass name, and they probably, all those countries probably have some other when they set up in all the other, they probably name themselves something else, and then buy up land, just like buying up land, buying up resources, buying all these, they'll call them something else, but they all get funneled back into like a BlackRock, Vanguard type of investment. And all these people get to say, well, we're not a conglomerate, but they've taken up but they are, but because they split it amongst all these other different conglomerates, they can say we're not breaking any laws, and because they get to be anonymous and whatever. But anyways, the point is, it's not to be predictable. That's what I'm making. The point is to disrupt any expectations that they have of how you gonna meet your enemy. Like, don't give your enemy, your opponent, any person who's putting an obstacle in your way, it should be met with, oh, don't let me unsettle them, like do some heinous or crazy or violent shit. It should be, oh, at any point in time, they should say, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Oh, I was expecting, that's why I put this here, and I'm still moving these pieces. It should be, oh, damn, how am I going to manipulate them now? And it's very hard to manipulate a group of people who decided that they're not gonna do nothing. Even if it hurts their economy, that they decided, well, because they don't have, I keep saying it, they do not have any bargaining chips if you do not play. If you play, they have some leverage because they could use education, school. But wouldn't you rather be doing this if you don't play? If you're like, oh, I'm making up my own seat, my own players, and you're not invited or whatever. When you prove to me that you're invited, then then you have leverage. But if you are still playing by their rules, their seating arrangements, then you will ultimately, more than likely, find yourselves used as a pawn, and then they will discard you just as quickly and find somebody else to just be like, oh yeah, to somebody else to just probably steer the majority in the right direction or whatever. But I guess having said that, I guess I am going to transition into what I'll be talking about next, which is books, because I love them. And on to the next topic, if I remember, will be about, I think it's called the extinction. Yeah, I think it's called the extinction of experience. It is so fucking good. And that's another thing too. So I always realized I was like hyper aware and hyper connected to technology, and especially like certain things, like certain social media shit, like like YouTube, or luckily I'm not like down with TikTok, or not because it's just not my vibe, but Reddit, TikTok, no, I scroll, but whatever. I scroll through YouTube mainly, but I'm not really into like social media, and I think I'm so better. I'm better, but I know I'm like, I could be doing, no, I'm not really like, how can I say this? It's like, I like the connectivity, and I like some of the content or whatever, but it really is brain rot. But it seems like brain rot has it feels like brain rot has manifested into a parasitic organism that is like the actual it turns in, it feels like brain rot is not only an ideology or a frame of reference of something else, but it's like, it's an actual, it feels like when I'm deep in the trenches of doom scrolling, that I'm like, brain rot is actually brain rot parasite, and it's laying its eggs in my head, and I'm just like, whoa. But anyways, so that was a little bit much. And I don't like thinking about parasitic eggs in my head, and I don't think you do either. So toodles. On a happy note, can't wait for fucking Halloween. Woo! Okay, bye.